What is going on, Notre Dame football fans? Mike Singer and Eric Hansen live on the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for, how about this? Still another roundtable show, and we have a lot to discuss in the world of Notre Dame football. And we're going to ask you guys to hit the thumbs up on this video. Of course, subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel. If you are new around here, and blueandgold.com is the home for all things Fighting Irish football and recruiting coverage, transfer portal, coaching moves, all that kind of stuff we'll be covering on our website, blueandgold.com. Eric, last time I was on a show with you was under shocking circumstances after the Irish were snubbed from the college football playoff, but it is good to see you, my friend.
Good to see you too. And for people that are in my life that are not Notre Dame fans, and I, need to confess, I grew up in Ohio, so a lot of them are Ohio State fans. They don't understand it, and they had a lot of questions about that and some other things. So they're still kind of buzzing about Notre Dame not getting in. They don't get it.
I was out with some buddies last night, and there were two topics of discussion. One, the glory days from our high school football, which were not very good. And the other was the college football playoffs. And I think there was maybe 10 or 15 guys there, and only two of them know what I do for a living. So they're all debating Notre Dame, and I'm just sitting there.
Yeah.
Like, oh man, I'm trying to get away from this, but it's everywhere. We'll reflect on the snub in a bit. We'll talk about Jeremiyah Love finishing third in the Heisman. We'll talk transfer portal. We'll talk Max Bola. But I wanted to start with this, Eric, and I hope that we don't get copyrighted for this. But how about Notre Dame quarterback commit? So let me set the stage. Noah Grubbs and Lake Mary did not have a great game. I think they were down 21-3 in the second half. Then they scored to make it 27-11 late in the third quarter. And they find themselves down 6 points with 8 seconds left. The ball in the opposition's territory at the 43-yard line. And I guess Vero Beach took a safety to make it a
27-21 game.
And it was 27-19. And they took the safety to avoid a block punt. And this is what happened. I will play it for folks watching on YouTube, but for listening to the podcast, Noah Grubbs extends, throws about 40, 45 yards downfield. Vero Beach player bats the ball, goes right into Florida International signee Barrett Schultz's hands, and he hands the ball off to a 2028 playmaker whose name's escaping me, and he scores. And Lake Mary then kicks the extra point to win 28-27. A couple quick notes. I'm going to spend a lot more time writing about Grubbs this week, and his offensive coordinator is a good friend of mine because I've been to Lake Mary just so many times in the past couple of years. He's going to join our recruiting show Friday afternoon, so I'm going to ask him about this game. I really wanted to go to this, but I had to go to my buddy's mini bachelor party last night. So, but the two things here is, one, Lake Mary has one Power 4 level recruit. Or when I say Power 4 level, of course, Notre Dame's not a conference, but we'll lump Notre Dame in the Power 4. He's the only Power 4 recruit on the team. Yeah, right. And then the other thing is by the Massey ratings, which I think was a BCS. Like the Massey ratings were using the BCS even, right, Eric?
Correct.
So Massey ratings does high school football predictions and rankings too. Had Lake Mary losing the last, was it 3 games or 4 playoff? I think it was 3 or 4 playoff games. They played the number 1 seed in the state of Florida, and this is the highest classification in Florida too. That doesn't mean the best because there's some other classifications that are they're smaller but have more D1 recruits and everything, but still highest classification in Florida and only P4 recruit. All these upsets, beat the top team in the classification to land, got blown out last year in the state title game against Venice, and then avenged that loss, and then beat Vero Beach, an undefeated team with tons of big time players. Very impressive. So I had to start off the show by getting, Noah Grubbs some love, and was just named Rivals Florida High School Football Player of the Year, which was pretty cool as well.
Well, it's neat to see because I think there was so much conjecture over, did Notre Dame take this guy too early? Not by you, but by people that don't watch him as much as you. And there was a lot of curiosity about him, and I was curious. And then we talked about him a little bit earlier in the year, and you thought they had lost a lot from their team, so he was going to have to carry a lot of water.
Dude.
Well, he did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah. No, Eric, me and you might start on that offensive line. I'm joking. That's being serious. That'd be disrespectful. But like, again, Brian Williams, transferred to a different school in the Orlando area, and he was a Notre Dame target who committed to Bam and then flipped to Auburn late. Like, I mean, that was the other Power 4 player on the team, and he leaves.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely put the team on his back. Look, like Mary's it's a really good football team and it's really well coached. But for Notre Dame's quarterback signee, I mean, to win the state title, like it was just incredible, man. Really well coached team.
Watching the video.
It's pretty special. It was pretty special. Folks, if you're just joining us, please hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe to the channel for more content. Wanted to start off the show by talking a little Noah Grubbs, and we're going to move into talking about Homefield Apparel. No one's doing game day better than Homefield. Of course, Notre Dame season's over, but not for long. Go ahead and start counting down the days. It's like 245 days, something like that, until game one next year. Is it Wisconsin, Eric?
It is. It's a Sunday game, and it's at Lambeau Field in Green Bay on the frozen tundra, although it won't be frozen on September 6th.
And you're going to want to rock some new Homefield. I mean, this is a new hoodie. Notre Dame Fighting Irish heavyweight hoodie, just the clean little shamrock on there. I like it. Homefield's always getting new stuff. We're talking hoodies, crew necks, tees, bomber jackets, hats, you name it. I rock the Homefield collection all the time. Just before I throw on this collared shirt, I was rocking some Homefield. So make sure you go to homefieldapparel.com, check out their Notre Dame line, and get your orders in now. Make sure if you order something, to see when it would ship and get to you before Christmas. But great way to get yourself something and shop for others in your life. So check it out, find your favorite design, and get ready to rep your Notre Dame gear and style. Eric, the news on Saturday night, other than Noah Grubbs and his heroics, was Jeremiyah Love finishing third in the Heisman voting. Obviously, you're a longtime Heisman voter. We're going to bring in Jack Sobel and Tyler James to discuss their ballots as well. But you did not have Jeremiyah Love in your number one spot.
I did not. I had him in my number two spot.
So you had Mendoza and then Pavia, which I mean, Pavia might be, an incredible, deserving top 3 guy, but just how unlikable he is, I wouldn't put him in the top 50. I mean, I'm joking, but seriously, he's so unlikable. But anyways, Eric, so tell us about your vote for Love second, and then I asked you this question a couple weeks ago. I think Toma was on with us, and I said to the Notre Dame fan who says, Eric, how dare you not put him number 1 and represent Notre Dame? And
I hadn't
Notre Dame in that way,
but we talked about it in a theoretical sense.
So I don't remember exactly. I'm sure I phrased it better in that sense. But why not put Jeremiyah Love? You're the Notre Dame writer, Eric. Why didn't you do that?
Well, I'm going to vote for who I think deserves the trophy the most, and I thought Jeremiyah was second in that. And why not just be biased and vote for the Notre Dame guy?
Right.
For the same reasons that we criticized the College Football Playoff Committee for not putting Notre Dame in with having an SEC athletic director as the chair of that committee. Should he say, well, look, I'm the chair, Alabama's in and Notre Dame's out, and nobody here is representing Notre Dame, so we can screw them? I think you have to be fair. If you're going to be asked to vote in these things for All-America, for Coach of the Year, I had a lot of individual Player of the Year things like the Biletnikoff, the Groza, Maxwell. I mean, there are about 8 of them that I voted on. You can just put in the Notre Dame candidate, and then I think you lose a lot of integrity. You have to build your brand some way, and mine is I call it like I see it. And I thought Jeremiyah Love in a lot of years would have won this and maybe won it going away. And this year, he did not. And to me, what the team does factors into this. Like Fernando Mendoza's numbers on their surface are not better than Jaden Daniels' numbers. And some people put up Ian Book's numbers from one of the years he was the starter. Well, if we play the numbers game, we put Ashton Genty's up from last year, and they're a lot better than Jeremiyah Love's. But it's the context of what they do for the team. And I thought Jeremiyah Love did elevate this team, but I thought Fernando Mendoza did something nobody had done since 1967. That was Indiana, elevating Indiana to a Big Ten championship, and something they had never done, elevating Indiana to the #1 spot. And I watched him play quite a few times this year, and he was in the top 2 in pass efficiency the whole year. And he played 3 top 10 defenses, none of them in Bloomington. One of them was Oregon, one of them's Iowa, and the other one's Ohio State, the #1 defense in the country. And what he did to Ohio State's defense, and it wasn't like Indiana's receivers were running open. You know, he had to put the ball just precisely in the spot. If those guys drop the ball, they lose their scholarship because those passes were pinpoint. You know, he's got a great story too. I mean, Jeremiyah Love has a great backstory. I didn't even know Fernando Mendoza's backstory until last night about his mom having multiple sclerosis and him dedicating the trophy to her. I mean, it's very touching. But I thought in the context of the team and what he did in elevating his team, that was #1. What Jeremiyah Love did was 2. Had Notre Dame been undefeated, then I think Love probably gets it at that point. Yeah. But them being a 10-2 team, that doesn't mean he let them down or he was the cause for the losses. But I think you have to vote. And it wasn't a close race. I mean, it wasn't close between Fernando and Diego Pavia. I mean, it was a blowout. And Jeremiyah was a pretty distant third. But what an accomplishment to get to New York as the first guy since 2012, Manti Te'o. And Jeremiyah has, I mean, the first Doak Walker Award winner ever. He has a chance to be Notre Dame's first unanimous All-American at the running back position since, can you guess the year? Just guess the year. You won't guess the guy.
2005?
1966. Nick Eddy is the last unanimous All-America running back for Notre Dame.
Oh, I missed the Notre Dame part. I'm sorry. I thought you just meant in general. I'm sorry.
There's a unanimous running back every year.
Okay. Yeah. That's
or not every year. There's a consensus every year, and then some years it's unanimous.
Okay.
For consensus, Notre Dame running back All-American was Vegas Ferguson in 1979. That's when you get 3 of the 5 required or more. But 5 out of 5, the last guy that did that was Nick Eddy in 1966.
Before we bring these guys, like the Heisman, you talked about the team, the story. Is it subject? Like, is there like obviously it's subjective, but is there like a specific criteria that maybe you use that like Horka, who did put Jeremiyah Love first, maybe leaning more toward the outstanding and electric side of it? Like, how do you weigh those things?
Yeah, I mean, the trophy says most outstanding player in college football, so that really leaves it open to interpretation, and the committee lets you interpret it how you want to. I mean, my very first one was Doug Flutie, and it was a Doug Flutie, Keith Byers in 1984, which only the people my age will probably remember this. But Doug Flutie was this 5'9" quarterback for Boston College, had no business winning games, and he had a big game against big bad Miami. Miami was really good back in that era. Had a Hail Mary pass that looked very much like Noah Grubbs' pass, except it didn't get tipped around. And that was kind of his Heisman moment. Keith Byers was this 245-pound tailback, and nobody had tailbacks that big in those days. That was very, very unique and had big numbers, and it really came down to kind of the Flutie magic. So every year it's a little bit different. You know, last year Notre Dame got a bounce for me because they were the number well, they ended up being the number 2 team. They weren't going in, but they were on my ballot 4 or 5. And I thought Xavier Watts elevated them to being a team that was going to be difficult to deal with in the playoff and made the playoff. And I voted him 3rd on my ballot last year.
Yeah.
I voted Ashton Genty number 1 last year because, again, if Ashton Genty plays for Louisiana Lafayette and has those numbers are, the context of them don't mean a lot. But for him to get that team into the playoff last year, that meant something to me. You know, Travis Hunter was an amazing player, 2-way player. You don't see a lot of those. But where was Colorado last year in the national scene?
Yeah. All right, let's bring in Sobel and Tyler James. Tyler, you also had Mr. Love 2nd, and you had Mendoza 1st and Sayin 3rd. So thoughts on this discussion, and you having Love 2nd in your Heisman poll?
Yeah, I think the Heisman allows you to have sort of different criteria every year, right? Because you're comparing them to who they're up against, right? So some years there could be someone that is statistically dominant that you feel like deserves to win the Heisman. Some year there could be, like I voted for Travis Hunter last year. I just thought his dynamic ability to play both sides of the ball allowed him to be a Heisman Trophy winner. Jeremiyah Love was 2nd because he is so dynamic. But to me, the difference was that, like, Mendoza's ability to come up in the clutch for Indiana, the way he was throwing game-winning go-ahead touchdown passes in all their close games, essentially. I thought that was enough to edge out Jeremiyah Love. I understand anyone that wants to make a case for Jeremiyah Love. That's why I had him 2nd. It's not to be dismissive of what Jeremiyah Love did. And like the statistical conversation, like Mendoza's not like a chart topper in terms of the statistics. Either is Jeremiyah Love, though. Either, like, if you go back and look at all the previous Heisman winning running backs, like, you got to go pretty far back to have as few rushing yards as Jeremiyah Love did. So I think you can go either way. And because for me, neither of the guys were like like stat stuffers, like, and so the edge between the two was just those big moments that Fernando Mendoza came up in the clutch to lead a team undefeated through the regular season, and put his team in position to be the 1 seed going into the playoff.
Jack?
Yeah, similar thing for me. I had Fernando Mendoza number 1. I had Jeremiyah Love number 2. I think the 3 of us all had a different number 3. Eric and Tyler. Eric, you had Pavia. Tyler, you had Sayin. I had Jacob Rodriguez. Number 3, I thought his season and just the amount of takeaways he created, and it wasn't just the takeaways from him. Like, he was tied for the lead in the Power 5 with defensive stops, which are tackles that represent a failure for the offense. Was just top of the charts in every metric. If anyone deserved the Heisman off of stats, it was him. But to Tyler's point, stats weren't everything this year. And for me, it came down to, honestly, like, the night after, or the night of the Big Ten championship, I went to bed that night not knowing who I was going to vote for between Mendoza and Love. I really had to think it over. But what separated it for me is the outstanding, the most outstanding player for me. That's got to include making big plays in the biggest games, and Mendoza did that more than anyone else this year, and it wasn't particularly close. So that's why I went with him. Love, the fact that Love played the schedule he did in the second half of the season and still surged to the Heisman ceremony was incredible for me. The plays he made, the highlights and the hype he generated, like, it's unbelievable accomplishment for him to get 2nd on all of our ballots and 3rd overall. But for me, Mendoza just made the plays when it counted.
Yeah, up on the screen I have the voting. So Mendoza got 643 first place votes. Love got 46. That was obviously 3rd most, and 2nd most Pavia. One of those 46 was Horka, who's not on the show today. But yeah, you could read Horka's article. He wrote a column about why he did vote Jeremiyah Love first. I thought this was funny, a little viral tweet. Jeremiyah Love listed at 6 foot, Mendoza listed at 6'5", Pavia listed at 6 foot, Sayin listed at 6'1". what in God's like, was this an uneven floor? Like, Love looks taller than Mendoza.
I
And
have
Pavia-
to imagine that's an uneven floor.
Or something with the angle. Pavia looks like he's 5'7", and Say looks about 6'3". I don't know what this is, but it's freaking funny. And then this was another angle of it. And Mendoza looks a lot taller than Love here. So, but I think we can all agree that I saw another comment where someone said Pavia looks like he's going to be fighting Jake Paul in a future year. Just really an unlikable guy, unless you're a Vanderbilt fan or if you're into that kind of stuff. I don't know. But folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel for more content. Boys, not on the show outline, but did want to talk about this. Your headline, Jack, a report from The Athletic. Notre Dame head coach Marcus Freeman on New York Giants list, expected to garner interest from other NFL teams. I believe that was The Athletic's Diana Rossini, who wrote that on Saturday morning. Jack, I know you liked my post on this, and I commented in your thread. I wrote, on one hand, I'm sure this is good, accurate reporting, right? It's not, I'm sure she's not lying here. I'm sure this is well sourced. But on the other hand, it was kind of like no crap. Like, we know that the Giants are interested in him, and we know that he's going to be garnering other interest. That was my takeaway for this, until you get that report about like, oh, he's going to interview, or he's being targeted by that team, which is usually followed pretty quickly by he's taken the job. I'm good here. Life's too short to be, living day by day here, nervous about Marcus Freeman. Yeah, like he's gaining interest, garnering interest, but I think that's all there is to see. Jack, do you have any differing opinions on this? And I'll open up the floor after that.
The one thing I'll add is that there have been rumors that the Giants are interested in him. I feel like this was the most concrete report where it was stated that the Giants are interested in him and that he's on their list. I agree it's not exactly new information, but
okay,
I thought that was interesting that it was stated so concretely. As far as when this is all going to stop, as far as Marcus Freeman getting NFL interest, it's never. The NFL clearly loves him. You understand why, and if you're Notre Dame, you just got to do everything you can to keep him happy and hope for the best.
Boys.
Well, where I get confused is where people say, well, Marcus is silent. That scares me. Why isn't he talking more? And I'm like, well, he was interviewed a whole bunch around this Heisman stuff. And what's he supposed to say? Like, every time there's a rumor about him, he's supposed to say, nah, don't worry about it, everybody. There has to be some rhyme and reason in terms of what you're going to address and what you're not going to address. And you can't address every time somebody on the internet has a rumor about you or put you on a hot list. And I'm not saying that this is that the Giants' interest isn't legitimate, but it doesn't mean Marcus's interest is mutual. And I think if it was, we would hear from Marcus in some form or fashion at some point. But the fact that a coach doesn't have a press conference every day to address rumors, I think, is good business.
Tyler?
Yeah, I think some of the complaints I've seen that Eric's referencing there, I thought they were more about why isn't Marcus talking about us getting snubbed, us being Notre Dame.
Sure.
I think Notre Dame fans
sort of want to hear from
him.
Right.
That
too.
And I don't think he needs to talk about that. Like, I think it makes sense to have the athletic director being the one pushing for change and let the head coach just coach football. It seems to be what Marcus Freeman wants to do when it comes to most of these big picture issues as it's related to college football. So I think it comes off a little worse if your head coach is, for lack of a better word, whining about the results of a committee. I think he's a football guy. He wants to just use that as motivation to make his team better, to eliminate a potential scenario from that happening in the future. So, yeah, he's certainly not going to address every NFL rumor that's attached to him, it doesn't make a lot of business sense for him to do that either. Like he can use that as leverage. To me, it's interesting, particularly with the Giants. I think even I heard Diana Rossini herself a couple of weeks ago say that the Giants do not want a college coach as their next head coach. So that's that. And I think Jake Glazer has said something similar. So there's been multiple indications that the Giants aren't actually interested in the college head coach, but people still want to say, well, Marcus Freeman is still on their list. It's like, well, what does that mean? Is he their 10th choice? And so what do we need to get worked up about that? Obviously other teams are going to be interested in him. And I would imagine it would take the right opportunity to get him to leave Notre Dame. I'm not sure if the New York Giants situation is one that would be worth attracting Marcus Freeman. Some people I saw someone on the Loose Emoji board say, well, Cornell's in the state of New York. Why wouldn't he want to go there? And it's not even close to where the Giants play football. But we're never going to hear the end of this in terms of teams being interested in Marcus Freeman, and he's never going to come out and say whether or not he's interested in every single job he's connected to.
I got 3 thoughts here, and the chances I remember all of them are unlikely. There is a discussion, Eric, about when is the right time for Freeman to go. We can speculate about that, but like, is he going to be at Notre Dame for the next 20 years? Like, maybe, I don't know, but you would think at some point he wants to test the NFL waters, but like, just like his DNA as a coach from everything we know about him seems so perfect for the college game as a motivator or as a recruiter. What would he be like in the NFL? I don't know. And I did forget the third thought, but the second thought, I know this order is weird. But I just got a notification on my phone. Here's Brady Quinn's Twitter. Retweeted my tweet about Rivals naming Noah Grubbs its Florida High School Football Player of the Year. That's always a good notification when you get Brady Quinn retweet you. So it's a good one.
Is this still about Freeman to the NFL?
That's not about Freeman to the NFL. The other thought was, but I don't recall it anymore. But Eric, any other thoughts on that discussion?
Well, we had Mike Golick Jr. on our Third and Goal podcast on Friday, and we asked him the question, and I thought it was pretty interesting what he came. So I'll start with him, and then I'll kind of fan out with my own thoughts. He said when he's asked about it, he thinks maybe at some point, and not like imminently, but maybe at some point, he might want to challenge himself with the NFL because it's perceived as football at the highest level. And then the lure of Ohio State, if that job were to open up and the timing was right for him to go to Ohio State. I'm kind of the same opinion. I don't think it's automatic that he does either. He's so young that it's hard to envision him being at Notre Dame for the length of his career. I mean, it would be like, the old iconic coaches like Woody Hayes and Bo Schembechler. And I mean, even Era was only here for a decade. And, Brian Kelly is the longest at Notre Dame at 12 years. So, would Marcus do that? So much ties into his family and what's best for his family. And I can kind of parallel it because my grandkids are almost the same exact ages as Marcus's kids, my 6 oldest grandkids. And I see what the thought process is with my own son and his wife and about things and whether they're going to move or do different careers and so forth. And just even in my own career, what I've wanted to do and what's kept me at certain places, I was a single dad raising 2 kids who didn't want to move. I had a lot of job offers that I could have gone somewhere else, and they wanted to be in this community. And I actually like the community. I love covering Notre Dame.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't as attractive. So just because it's what he wants in 2025, 2026 doesn't mean he has the same mindset in 2030. But if we're looking at the next 2 or 3 years, I don't think he would be lured away by anything but an Ohio State opening. Yeah. Maybe down the road, NFL.
I do remember the other point, and
good. I was trying to Talk long enough so that you would remember it, that you would get bored, and then you would think of other things, and that would come up.
So Freeman was asked on the Today Show a couple weeks ago about staying and put in South Bend, and he said, "Oh yeah," with a smile, and then repeated that, "Oh yeah." So the other kind of thing about this is, okay, he doesn't have to come out here and say no to everything that opens up, but Pete Bavakwood talked about his contract with Notre Dame as a living, breathing thing that's always changing and everything. So do you think that's why there's not news of like a contract extension? He literally just signed a new one this week last year. So it's like, are they just going to do a new contract every year and announce it and make it a big thing? Like, do you guys have thoughts about like, why not just shut it down that way? Or is it just like none of our business?
I don't know if they announce it every year, but I think at this point, if you have a successful college football coach, extending him every year is the reality right now. I also don't think it's Marcus Freeman's job to calm down the fan base when they get scared after every rumor. So I don't blame him for not like directly addressing all of this more than he already has. As far as like, would Freeman be a good NFL head coach? I do think he's one of the few college coaches who can. Mike, you mentioned that like his strengths right now are that he's a player's coach and that he is a good recruiter and he's a molder of young men. Like he is smart enough and good enough with people to mold his leadership style to adult men in the NFL. So I don't know when or even if he wants to do that, but I think he could succeed in that area.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I wanted to add, because of who Marcus Freeman is and the way he coaches, like the timing doesn't make sense to me to leave this offseason of all off seasons. Like he has a star quarterback. He has a team that has a giant chip on its shoulder going into next season. Like what set of circumstances is he going to have a better outlook going into a season than this next season? Like this is the time for him to maybe fulfill his potential as a head coach. And so I think he would have to be really attracted to whatever job was out there to pull him away, because I feel like the circumstance of what's setting up for Notre Dame going into next season is like, I don't know that he could ask for much better.
That's a great point. Cause if it's an NFL job, they're hiring you because they just fired their coach probably. Yeah. Cause they stink. Like the Giants have some young, interesting pieces. It is New York, but still like they stink. And you go to the NFL and it's like, you're on the hot seat right away. Like they will get rid of you so fast. Dude, you're at Notre Dame. They worship like the ground you walk on, right? Like he could do no wrong right now. I'm kind of talking tongue in cheek, but like still, like you win a national championship at Notre Dame, dude. Like you are an absolute legend compared to like is the grass green in the NFL right now. And you go in and you have like a year to prove yourself. It's just I don't think it's the right time. But.
Well, one thing that Golick brought up too was the grind of recruiting. He said, at some point, does he want more predictable hours and not have the 365-day grind of recruiting? I'll tell you what, if he can do it with 6 kids that are all in school-age kids, it's going to be a breeze when he's an empty nester.
Yeah. Okay, the recruiting thing is an interesting point because when I've talked about this recently, when he had his introductory press conference, he said, I'm going to be the lead recruiter for Notre Dame with all of these high school prospects. And I remember thinking at the time, like, do you know the difference of D coordinator to head coach at Notre Dame? Like, I don't know if you really, and I don't think he knew what he was expecting at the same time. But I talked to a source about this discussion, and the source was like, early in Marcus Freeman's tenure, he did have to do that. He, like, as your head coach, as an unproven guy who had just been the DC at Notre Dame for a year, and then before that, the DC at Cincinnati, he had to earn his chops on the recruiting front as this great recruiter. And then once you establish yourself, you don't have to be doing that as much, right? Like that grind, that 365-day grind. Now, what he does do is he has a recruiting office that sets him up, and they set apart time to call all these recruits and do all these things. So it's different for him. And also, he's 39, Eric?
Yes. He's got a birthday coming in January.
He's got to have all that energy still. I would hope so.
Well, I actually think he enjoys recruiting to an extent. I think some coaches, they hold their nose, and I think Marcus enjoys those relationships. Now, it can be overwhelming and relentless at times, but I also think he's got an amazing staff around him. He's got assistants that are really good recruiters. He's got Mike Martin, who handles the financial part so well, and the vision and the evaluations. And you talk about Matt Jansen with scouting and all the people in the recruiting office. He's got some stars there. So, and they roll deep. I mean, you did the big article about that. It's like, wow, I can remember when there were like 3 other people besides the recruiter.
And I think they're understaffed too. I think they might hire 1 or 2 more folks in the off season. Like, maybe not understaffed, but they're only looking to expand it. So, yeah. All right, boys. I do have in the to lead the headline of this, reflecting on the Notre Dame CFP snub. Jack and Tyler, especially in the one with Eric on this, like, just thinking back to this time last Sunday, and what new information we've learned, or any new thoughts you guys have about it. Is December 14th, and we're doing a show on a Sunday, and we're not talking about Notre Dame's road matchup against Oklahoma or a rematch against A&M. We're not. And not only are we not doing that, there's not even a Pop-Tarts Bowl to discuss. So, Tyler, James, reflect on that CFP snub, if you're okay with me calling it a snub.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with calling it a snub. I don't know that I feel like we've learned a lot since then. I think the questions still remain in terms of how and why that happened, and I think most of us agree that the playoff rankings reveal show has become extremely devalued throughout this process. It did strike me, like, watching some of the stuff with the Heisman. I think the one that really struck me was the one Notre Dame did with, I think it was like some singers on campus singing a song, like a cappella, maybe, of a Jeremiyah Love highlights. It's like, man, it really stinks we're not going to be able to assuming we're not going to be able to see him play another game in a Notre Dame uniform. And that really hit me. And obviously with all the Heisman stuff, and he still has to officially make his decision. I would be surprised if he returns, but just a bummer that we don't get to see a Notre Dame team that is trending upward and put itself out there and try to make another run at the national championship game. So, yeah, I mean, I think it was definitely a flawed process. I understand the complaints from Notre Dame about it. I think we're probably getting to the end of that cycle in terms of outward complaining and starting to focus on building towards next season. But yeah, just disappointing that we don't get to see this Notre Dame team play again.
Jack?
I don't know, man. There's still a lot. Like, the anger from the fan base, I feel like, has not died down at this point. Maybe the team itself has moved on to 2026. I think, knowing Marcus Freeman, he's already deep into that process. But I do think it was either Eric or Mike who made this point that I think it was Tyler James, 0 for 2 on that one, who said, like, the chip on the shoulder of the 2026 team is going to be, like, bigger. Like, can you guys have both been covering Notre Dame for a lot longer than I have. Can you think of a team that had a bigger chip on their shoulder than this one is going to heading into a season?
No, I mean, the 93 team was pretty ticked off on not being awarded the national championship. Yeah. And that was a head-to-head thing that went the other way for Notre Dame. So
not only that, but, like, the talent that this team has coming back, the combination of the two. Like, I don't know if I'm going to pick Notre Dame to lose a regular season game next year.
Yeah, I think what hindered the 94, 95, 96 teams was Holtz. And Holtz would say this. Holtz was declining in terms of his drive, in terms of the administration backing him up. I mean, he will say he wasn't the same guy that he was before. But I was at my youngest son's house dropping a grandkid off, and they have all different drop-off points. And I was telling them, I think the 2026 roster is going to be stronger than this one in the 2024. I think there's a lot to be excited about next year.
Rip Jules says, any chance Love returns? He was pretty coy when asked this week by ESPN. I just think that it wasn't about whether he's going to return or not. It was more about his season, and he will get to that at a later point. Like, I'm sure he's going to go, but I don't think they wanted to make it about that, even though Freeman kind of, had some fun with it in a couple of interviews. But that was my thought on that. Eric, last year, the rule change that was done right away was the auto buys for the conference champs, right? It was like, okay, let's correct this. What do you think the correction is, if any, this offseason going into the college football playoff for next year? While not directly like a college football playoff committee rule, but the ACC you think is going to fix their tie-breaking system. But is there going to be something else? Getting rid of the Tuesday night show, or make it every other week? I don't know. Start it later in the year. What do you think they're going to do? Well, on one hand, everyone is pissed about the Tuesday night shows. I'm sure ESPN is sitting here being like, look at all of this viewership and money we made off of this. Like, we don't want to get rid of this. Hell, Eric, I'll be honest.
They forced us to watch the Seton Hall USC basketball game for an hour.
That was probably the most watched Tuesday night ESPN basketball game of the season. But I'm be honest, Eric, for us, man, those Tuesday night ranking shows are great for us for content. Like, I can't lie. We got to live react to that stuff. It was a lot of fun, great viewership. But yeah, thoughts, Eric, or anything I'm missing?
I don't think you're missing anything, and I want to keep this condensed so that these guys don't have a chance to eat a turkey leg while I'm giving my answer, like I did with Kyle's answer the one time. And I love Kyle. But the deadline's coming up at January 23rd. So whatever they're going to have in place in terms of number of teams,
that's the
deadline.
To change anything about the CFP?
That's to change the format of the. Now, that doesn't mean the selection, but there may not be a lot of things that you could change. You need to have how many teams you're going to have by January 23rd. I think we can come up with a lot of solutions. I think let's take our time with getting this process right. And I have some ideas, and I had a chance on my live chat for people to ask me them. And we also answer questions on our podcast about it. But I'd like to give it some more thought. The one thing that has come soaring into the spotlight, though, Mike, is that the three letters MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and I probably got the first word wrong, but it just means it's an agreement. And that's not maybe signed, but it's of understanding. Again, I have friendships outside of the Notre Dame fan base, and almost every one of those people have asked me about Notre Dame's status next year with that MOU. They said, isn't Notre Dame getting special treatment next year? They're guaranteed to be in if they're the 12th team or the 14th team or the 16th team. And I said, well, they're actually, it's my understanding that other teams have certain assurances, and I try to explain the dynamics of the conference. But whatever it is, you still have to make the process not only have integrity, but look like it has integrity. Because as some of our readers pointed out, if they're guaranteed in at number 12 and it doesn't matter what the conference champions are, the committee can make them 13.
Oh, easily.
Yeah. So let's not worry about that part of it. Let's make sure the process has integrity and gets it right, and that it appears also to have integrity. There's always people that are going to challenge it. If they don't get their way, there's always some excuse. But this year they made it look so bad. It was really difficult not to question. You would really have to be naive not to question if they were, either crooked, incompetent, or just hitting the bourbon really hard.
How Notre Dame skipped the bowl game, it's a whole different discussion. But with what Pete said in the press conference about you put Bama in over us, you put Miami in over us, we get that, but it's the way that it was done. Tyler James, your tweet right after that, it was right after the CFP ranks you announced, you were like, how Notre Dame went from 9 to out of the field in the span of 2 weeks, or no, like 8 days or something, or 6 days, something like that. It was just like the when you go through it, it's just bonkers. So yeah, the process was terrible. Here we are. And the opt-out thing, like, I think that this is just going to be more and more common. Just like bowl game opt-outs. Wasn't it McCaffrey was one of the first like big time names to opt out of and that was a lesser bowl game?
Was him and Leonard Fournette, I think they were both the same year.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there wasn't bowl opt-outs before, but that was like when it really started, like guys opting out of bowl games for their future. Like, I think that from a team opt-out, I think that this is, and Notre Dame's not the only one. There's at least 6 or 7 teams.
There's 10.
10?
Yeah.
That have also opted out. So it's just going to be more and more prevalent now in college football. Folks, please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. If you're listening to this as a podcast, thank you very much. We'd ask that you leave us a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. We've got 2 big items to discuss moving forward in this show. Max Bola, Notre Dame linebackers coach, accepting a co-defensive coordinator and linebackers job at his alma mater, Michigan State. I reported that, so this news came on the 10th. So on the 9th, Michigan State made a big run at him. He turned it down, and then the next day they made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. So I was told that there was a lot of surprise when he took the job in the Goog, because it was like, oh, we thought he was staying. And again, just couldn't turn down his alma mater, Pat Fitzgerald, the new head coach there with the Spartans. So I'll just throw it around the room. I mean, like, yeah, guy going to his alma mater, getting a promotion makes sense. We'll see where Notre Dame goes from here with the linebackers job. So I'll throw it around the room. Anyone want to dish on Max Bola, Notre Dame having their first opening on the coaching staff?
I would say that it's not terribly surprising. I think he's a coach that's going to have a lot of upward mobility throughout his career. I was very impressed with Max Bola in his time at Notre Dame. Presents well. It's like quintessential football coach. Like, loves talking football. He's great to interview in terms of, like, he's pretty transparent and speaks bluntly about his players and glowingly too. Like, it's not like it's only the bad things he's willing to say, but he's willing to be honest with you. And I think that's very much appreciated from a reporter standpoint. To see him go back to his alma mater makes some sense. And I get my perspective on, like, what's next. Like, the one position I would be least worried about in terms of who Notre Dame hires while Marcus Freeman is head coach would be linebacker, right? Like, he knows what makes a good linebackers coach. He's going to find someone that can take care of that. And people talk about recruiting too. I think I posted on the loose emoji board, like, if Marcus Freeman's the head coach, you could have a dog recruiting linebackers at Notre Dame, and they're gonna get good linebacker recruits coming to Notre Dame. It couldn't be an easier position to recruit when Marcus Freeman's your head coach.
And the 2 years before they promoted Bola to linebackers coach, they basically had GAs coaching the linebacker. It was Bola. It was Bola my first year on the beat, and the year before I got here was James Laurinaitis, who of course is now the linebackers coach at Ohio State. I think he spent a year as a GA there as well. But both those guys, even though they weren't the linebackers coach in name, they were coaching the linebackers while Al Golden focused on his responsibilities as defensive coordinator. So I think it's a great point, Tyler. I will obviously miss interviewing Max Bola. He was fantastic. By all accounts, a rising star as a coach. But, you know, the thing about rising star coaches, when they're position coaches, they will have upward mobility, like Tyler said. And not a surprise that Bola's stay at Notre Dame as linebackers coach lasted 2 years.
Greer Martini as linebackers coach. Eric, what do you think?
I like him a lot as a coach. I wonder if he has enough experience. You know, he's just started to get into full-time linebacker coaching jobs. He was down with Clark Lee at Vanderbilt as a quality control guy. He was with Brian Kelly for a year, I want to say. as a GA, and then he was at Charlotte, and then he's at Western Michigan now. But
with
Greer
former
Martini,
Notre Dame running backs coach Lance Taylor, of course, the head coach there.
right? But Greer Martini is really, really impressive. I'll tell you what, I mean, there ought to be a line forming for that job. If you think about, let's say all those linebackers stay, or even just one of them leaves, and they say, these are the guys I get to coach.
Yeah.
I think they could pay somebody like Tyler Horka's dog. I mean, they wouldn't, Tyler Horka's dog wouldn't be able
Ollie.
to coach him. Yeah, Ollie. But and they'd say, hey, I'll just come for the experience. But Greer Martini is somebody that I think that they should at least vet and look into. But in terms of the names that we kind of had on our hot board early, he was the least experienced of those guys.
$10 super chat from Pilney says Rockney had offers from Ohio State and Minnesota because he couldn't get a stadium built, and the fathers relented. Marcus Freeman's agent is creating this. It's a salary negotiation tool. Eric, you look puzzled?
Is the implication that
is that a question or is that a statement?
I think it's more of a statement for you to react to, I guess.
For $10, I will react. No, you know, and I can see why he would say that, because I do think a lot of agents operate like that. And I feel like Brian Kelly's agent operated like that. And sometimes to the detriment of Brian. He was scattering Brian's name around toward the end of the 2016 season, trying to create the illusion that Brian was a hot commodity when Brian was on the hot seat. And I think that backfired. I think Marcus is more of in control of this and doesn't want to play that game and believes that Notre Dame is going to be forthright with what they're doing. I mean, they've been good in terms of, I think Marcus is very grateful that they took a chance on him and that they've stayed with him during the bumpy road. And I think that they have been very fair to him in terms of compensation and, you know, adding years to his contract. So I don't know. I was talking to somebody about Marcus's agent the other day, and I don't get the sense that he's playing games and so forth. But agents play by different rules. I just think the unity with Pete Vivacqua, the administration of Marcus, is much stronger than it was with the administration at Notre Dame and Brian Kelly, for instance.
Pilney, thank you for the 10. Check.
When his name was popping up on the college coaching list, that smelled like agent dropping his name in a couple places. But with the NFL stuff, like last year it was Peter Schrager, this year it's Diana Rossini. Those are NFL people who probably are getting their information from NFL teams. So this seems like it's coming from the NFL side. Good point.
Wrap it up. Jack, you wrote an article a couple days ago. Always one of my favorite articles that you write every year, by the way. What does Notre Dame football need for the 26th season out of the transfer portal? And you broke it into 6 tiers, with tier 1 being a dire need. Tier 2, take a veteran starter if a good one is available. Tier 3, are you really confident with the in-house options? Tier 4, did you not have a tier 4? You skipped it to.
I did. Did I skip 4? I think I might have had 6 at first and condensed it to 5 and forgot to change the numbers. So you guys know what it means.
So tier 4 then depends on draft decisions.
I'm also glad no one caught that until right now, because that article's been up for like a week.
And then your last tier is you don't need to add to an already crowded room. So, and I don't know if this was on purpose or not, but I did write that article the other day about like positions that Notre Dame was looking at, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The dire need was a defensive tackle. Notre Dame is losing guys, obviously, like some grad transfers, or just the Dawson, because I think Elijah Hughes has another year, but
they're losing Rubio
and Anye.
And probably Anye, unless he gets a miracle 6th year.
Like when you look at the players coming back at each position, like defensive tackle stands out like a sore thumb, to be honest. Like you get Heinisch back, who's a wonderful pass rushing defensive tackle, but you can't trust him on early downs. You get Hughes back, who's a developmental piece who played probably better than I think we all expected in year one, and they obviously like where he's headed for year two. But beyond that, it's like, do you really trust Mullins and Sevillano and Mookum to become like linchpins at this point? Like, you'd love that, and you're certainly not giving up on them, but I don't think you can count it either. I think you need one defensive tackle who is as good as or preferably better than Dawson, and then you need a depth body, probably more than 1 year remaining, kind of like you got in Hughes. I think you need two defensive tackles, one locked in starter, and one depth piece.
Good point. And then next in your tier 2, you had wide receiver and nickel, and those I think are the big 3 for Notre Dame. Like, yeah, kicker, specialist. Like, you know, we could talk at a later point about like the potential of getting an experienced backup, but that's the big 3 for me: wide receiver, and then I think just whether it's a nickel or a corner, I think I would loop those in together as just like get the best, because we don't know about Christian Gray. I think that he could be a guy who goes to the pros.
And I think with receiver, like, this is the last thing I'll say, then I'll open the floor to Eric and Tyler. But with receiver, I wouldn't just take a receiver to take a receiver at this point. Like, there's a lot of bodies in that room. You got 2 starters in Greathouse and Faison back. You got plenty of depth at both those spots, as slot and field. I think you take a high-end boundary guy if you can get one, and that's it at receiver. But definitely take the high-end boundary guy, because, like, while Gilbert and Williams obviously have shown some things, I don't know if you trust either of them to be like a go-to target next year.
Yeah, I think we're talking about this team as one that can contend for the national championship. So I think you can't be shy when you're looking at the biggest needs on your roster. And so maybe you hurt some feelings by taking a receiver or taking a couple of defensive tackles, but I think that's where Notre Dame is right now. It needs to maximize its potential at those positions and get guys that can be difference makers on the roster. And if maybe those guys come in and the guys you already have prove to be better than them, like that can happen too. That increases the ability at your position. If that creates some competition, that brings out the best in some other guys. And obviously nickelback is a position that Notre Dame has annually sort of addressed through the transfer portal. And that could be helpful as well. And I would be shocked if they don't add at least one kicker and or punter. They got to add at least one of those, I would imagine.
If I knew the technology, I would put a $10 super chat in just to get Mike Singer to talk about kickers. As far as the defensive tackles, there's a couple wild cards in that mix, and I do think they need at least one and probably two. One is the coaching staff would really like Chris Burgess to embrace being a defensive tackle. They think he can be great. Could he be great in 2026? Probably not, but at some point they think he's going to.
Yeah.
The other thing is, does Bryce Young at some point grow into being an interior guy at 6'7" and 270 pounds? Is he 6'7", 290 next year? And is he an interior guy? But again, if you have the kind of roster that you can make a run at a national championship, you don't want a whole lot of ifs hanging out there. The wide receiver, I agree with Jack. If you can get somebody like Malachi Fields in the boundary, I think that's what you go do. And you still bring Cam Williams and Micah Gilbert along and maybe have a deeper rotation, but you need to go get that guy if he's out there. And yeah, in the back end, I mean, let's say you lose somebody the caliber of Carson Hobbs. Now, Carson isn't going to play a lot necessarily, but then you get thin with injuries very quickly. Really love Zachary and Dallas Golden. Is Dallas Golden your nickel next year? I know Nick Reddish is going to be a nickel at some point. He's not ready next year. Love all the safeties.
Yeah.
You know, Aiden Pouncey has versatility, but again, you're pretty young in some of that backup depth. So again, a nickel / corner seems to make sense, especially if Christian Gray's going somewhere.
$10 from Pilney says Saban and Meyer both failed in the NFL, are more college-style coaches. College football's best both failed. There is a pattern there. It doesn't always translate.
And I will say this to Pilney. Urban Meyer was on a show the other day, and he was talking, and he and Marcus talk all the time. And he said, I would advise Marcus to stay in college for the very reasons that Pilney brought up. He goes, you have control in college. You don't have control of that in the NFL. So I think that was an interesting point. Pilney, definitely a $10 worth of it.
Sorry about that. $5 from Benny says, how does our 2027 recruiting look so far now that we're in the off season a month early? Yeah, I mean, they're able to get a head start on some things that like they couldn't last year. Like tight end recruiting was delayed because of the national championship run, and the staff couldn't hit the road as much in January. Like really, I don't think they did it all. I think there was one day where like the recruiting staff hit the road in place of the coaching staff. But like quarterback recruiting was delayed. Like Gino didn't get to see any guys in January that he would have. So that delayed 27 quarterback recruiting. That's why Notre Dame took so long to offer, or there's a big reason why they took so long to offer quarterback in the 27 cycle. So they can't now magically get kids on campus in December. A dead period, still a dead period, but yeah, they're on the phone, they're working things. Yeah, 27 class, I would say, is looking pretty good right now. So Benny, thank you for the 5. And Pilney with another 10. Pilney, appreciate you, brother. ND Nation saved itself this year from the heartache of losing a playoff game by a field goal that would have come back to haunt this team in the playoffs. Can't blow everybody away.
I think you would have rather gotten the opportunity to find that out, but that's certainly a possibility for what happened for what would have happened if they did get in.
Yeah, Eric, I don't want to talk about kickers. I know we have to talk about kickers.
Pilney got the $10 for me so that you had to talk about
it's like officials and a lot of long snappers. If you're not talking about them, they're doing a good job. If but here we are. So I just hope that Eric Schmidt is. How many kicks did he miss last year? He missed what? Two field goals and one PAT.
3 field goals and 1 PAT.
Did he make any field goals?
No,
he did not make a field goal. No.
So I mean, hopefully he just comes a reliable guy, and that's just that. I like knowing Marcus Freeman led Notre Dame teams and how they handle special teams. Like they bring in competition in those rooms, whether it's a walk-on from Cornell, graduate guy, or you bring in a Noah Burnett or Spencer Schrader, that kind of guy.
Cornell's getting a lot of play on our show today.
How about the Big Red? And Pilney again. Man, Pilney, we're about to end the show, brother. Just just dropping all these super chats. So we really appreciate it. Marcus Freeman has an angry team on his hands with unfinished business. They are probably one of the top 5 to win it all next year. Marcus Freeman's not going anywhere. Shit, man. They were top 5 to win it this year and didn't even make the field. It's bizarre. But here we are. Jack, you just unmuted. Did you have something to say?
Oh, and I just in case we were wrapping up and doing final thoughts.
I think we are wrapping up and doing final thoughts. I forgot to do an ad read, but we'll just save that for our Tuesday show with Eric Hansen and me. And Eric, I think we're going to get Robbie on. So Golick, you talked about in your podcast with him, like the being on that 09 team and not playing the bowl game. We'll get Robbie on, and that was his freshman year at Notre Dame. So we'll talk with Robbie on Tuesday night. I'll text him to make sure he's available. So we'll have a fun Tuesday night show. Maybe talk a little recruiting and whatever else comes up. But yeah, boys, anything else before we close out? No. All right. Yep. Well, folks, please do hit the thumbs up. Pilney, thank you for the super chats. Benny, and if there's anyone else I'm forgetting, but thank you guys so much for the support during the show today. Please hit the thumbs up on this video. Subscribe to the Blue and Gold YouTube channel for more content. Next show, Tuesday. I think we'll have 6-pack on Wednesday, recruiting show on Friday, and maybe some more videos that are not live between then. So, again, folks, hit that thumbs up, and we'll catch you next time.